and welcome to the Hadassah Collective podcast. I'm your host, Claire Marrinan. The Hadassah Collective is a unique, wellness-centered community created in and inspired by India, the birthplace of holistic health disciplines. The Hadassah Collective podcast brings together a carefully curated selection of my most trusted and inspiring innovators from every area of the health and wellness space. I invite my guests to freely share their gifts, their wisdom, their journeys, and their diverse points of view, discussing a vast range of topics including shutdown and self-isolation strategies, integrated diet and fitness, yogic science, modern mental health, and holistic lifestyle, all to inspire you with relatable tools to help you consciously customize, support, and expand your life. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Soniyaa Kiran Punjabi, the founder of Illuminations World. In this episode, we discuss Soniya's personal spiritual journey and the healing modalities that have supported her entrepreneurial path. Soniyaa is the perfect balance of someone who leads her business from her spirit and soul without rejecting her business mind. I hope this episode encourages you and inspires you. Hi Soniyaa, welcome to the Hadassah Collective. It's so lovely to have you on today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me, Claire.
Amazing. So why don't we get started? And if you can just give us a little bit of information about who you are and what you do and where in the world you are at the moment.
So in three-dimensional terms, I am the founder of Illuminations Wellbeing Center, which is located in the UAE. So I'm currently in Dubai right now. Basically, like what I do at Illuminations is provide services related to holistic healing, mental well-being, and personal growth. Since 2006, spirituality, healing, and entrepreneurship have been the focal points of my life and areas I've been extremely passionate about. Before I started like Illumination Centers, I had my own private setup where I was helping people on the level of the mind, body, and energy through holistic healing practices such as hypnotherapy and energy healing, breathwork, mindfulness. So I'm a trained clinical hypnotherapist by profession and a holistic healer. So I mainly teach now in groups, and in more recent times, I'm focused more on the operational side of running Illuminations. We currently own and operate 3 branches in the UAE, so I'm always looking for new ideas, concepts, and unique ways to reach out to people, because at the end of the day, you know, my goal is to help people live more happier, healthier, and purposeful way of life. So.
Yeah, amazing. And I had a look at some of your list of services at Illuminations, and I think it's such an interesting concept. It's one that I haven't seen actually that often, and it's like bridging the gap between one-on-one coaching and and traditional therapy, I think, and bringing it into that group setting and making it really accessible. So I think it's a fantastic concept.
Yeah, so actually we wanted to, so we didn't want to be another yoga and a meditation studio, and we didn't want to be a psychological based clinic because a lot of people don't want to recognize that they have issues, right? So when you go to a clinic, you automatically think you're a patient and something's wrong with you. So we kind of wanted to bridge the gap between the two and create a platform where people can focus on a journey of self-discovery. And of course, we combine the best of Western approaches such as psychology, cognitive behavioral therapy, but we also have a unique blend of focusing on more sacred healing arts like meditation, breathwork, mindfulness. And so providing that combination to people was really interesting, especially in a place like the UAE, which was previously non-existent, and I think that's where a lot of people could come into a space without feeling threatened and, feel safe and nurtured enough to focus on their personal growth. And that's precisely what our point was.
Yeah, amazing. I think it's fantastic. It's such a great concept because you're right. A lot of people do they don't want to recognize that they have issues, or they think it's like crossing a line into a space that, they're admitting that there is something wrong with them. Whereas it's, just like you go and work out at the gym, you need to work on these aspects of yourself too. So I think that's great. And on a personal level, how did you get started on this path with hypnotherapy?
Wow, well, that's an interesting journey. As they say, like the universe sometimes has shaken you to awaken you, and that's a line I love using. But basically, I think painful experiences push us to grow. They wake us up to our destiny, our calling, our potential. And my awakening, happened when I was 19 years old. A friend of mine had passed away in a car accident. He was one of my best friends in London at the time, and I was really struggling to come to terms with this loss. It made me realize how unpredictable life is, and like how temporary it is, and how much time we waste worrying, stressing, fearing, and fighting. And within seconds, your life can just be taken away from you. And that realization came to me at the age of 19. And it led me to like an existential crisis where I began asking myself, like, who are we? Why are we here? What is the purpose of our life when, we hold on to things so dearly and within seconds they can be taken away from us? And so that that question led me to search for answers on the meaning of life. What happens to the soul? What happens to us when we die? And what is the purpose of it all, And that led me to India, obviously, given it's the land of spirituality and mysticism. And I met a lot of teachers who inspired me. They taught me about quantum physics, about mind sciences, which is rooted in ancient spiritual practices, but it also helps us really expand the boundaries of our mind, our emotions, and, help us understand why we're really here. And through an introduction into meditation, hypnotherapy, and all these different modalities, I experienced that, when you start to focus on changing what's going on within you, you have the power to change what's going on around you. And, we have such a short time on this earth, and we really never know when our time is up. And we want to make sure that we're living our best life. And the only way to do that is to live more consciously by making more conscious thoughts that can have an overall lasting impact on our health, career, and relationships. And so that's why I created Illuminations, because it gives people the space and opportunity to reconnect with their inner self and just do what really makes their soul happy.
So beautiful. And what about your early years, your early childhood years? What did that look like? Where did you grow up? And was there any of this influence in your life in your early years?
Well, now that I look at, and I introspect, actually, yes. So I grew up in Seoul, South Korea. I've lived there for 17 years. I've lived in Asia, so once an Asian, always an Asian. I studied in the UK, and I've been living in Dubai since 2005, 2006. In terms of early years, I would say that I've always been interested in spirituality, coincidences, miracles, and really understanding the universe and the unknown, And so when I was younger, my mom would send me to these weekend spiritual classes. Like literally every Saturday morning, I'd have to go to these spiritual classes where we'd learn about different saints and mantras and chanting and masters. And so now that I look back, I'm like, maybe that, was the first awareness that I actually had, which sowed the seed, which would then, blossom into something else many years later. So that was really interesting because I don't know too many kids who actually did that at the time. But growing up, I've been reading books on like Small Miracles and Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I used to read the whole series as a child, and it was just a more understanding about, love and understanding about how to operate from a space of love. And, and then in college, I ended up doing 2 art projects on spirituality and karma. But at the time, I didn't really think much of it because it was just an interest, but not a way of life.
Yeah.
And it was only when, when my best friend actually passed away in London, it gave, a friend of mine gave me this book called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss. And that really, helped me to understand that there's so much more than what we see, hear, taste, smell. And there's so much more to life than that. And that fascinated me, and it provided me with a lot of peace. And that's really when my journey began, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I totally relate to that. I totally relate. And it's interesting when you go back and you can trace these things back and see how they've led you to where you are now, when they really meant nothing to you at the beginning, at the time. And so talking about, rock bottom moments, dark nights of the soul, apart from the time when your friend passed away, are there any more recent times that you've had moments like this And what sort of modalities and practices have you used to support yourself through that and to navigate out of that?
Yeah, so I mean, like the second probably most difficult time in my life was in 2012 when my father passed away.
Yeah.
Being the youngest in my family and the first one to do my own thing, you know, all my friends and family, like they perceive me to be really strong, detached, and you know, extremely like you're resilient. But seeing my father suffer for 3 months in the hospital in the ICU, and that feeling of helplessness, knowing that he's going to die and it's just a matter of time, and there's nothing no one can do about it, and I think that really broke me. You know, we'd get calls from the hospital every time his health would deteriorate, and then the next day we'd be hopeful because it's, you know, like his health would improve, and that constant roller coaster of emotions and anxiety really affected me. But it was also the time I was opening Illuminations up, and it was the early years of work as well, and I would sit in the hospital and work for hours whilst experiencing all of this. And I remember on the hospital, like in the last days, you know, like I think it was one night before he passed away, I had this dream and I was crying and he was consoling me, and you know, just as his usual self, and he told me, you know, that my time is up and I'm really happy to go, so please don't cry. And suddenly I woke up and I knew that that was the day he was going. And so, you know, when I saw him taking his last breath and suddenly the doctor announces time of death, and you know, it was just in the evening time, and you're just like, I just lost my father, and I was in a complete state of shock. So for me, that would probably be the most difficult day of my life, because it was not just about that, but the aftermath of everything that happened. So when I walked out of the hospital, you know, I saw the world continue as it is, children playing, traffic was bumper to bumper, people rushing in and out. And I was just thinking, you know, the world will continue just as it is, with or without us. And we are all heading to the same destination. It's simply a matter of time. And we are temporary residents on this earth. And, you know, whilst we are in this world, we're not of it. And that was another second wake-up call and a reminder, you know, that this is the only truth of life, and everything else is just, you know, drama, you know?
Yeah.
Drama of the ego about, you know, work and then career. And, you know, I'm somebody who values work so much. Like, for those who know me, I sacrifice so much and I spend so much time working. But, you know, in recent years, it's made me realize that at the end of the day, it's just about being in the moment and, you know, having the inner peace and like remaining in that present moment and just realizing who you really are every day, you know. And my meditation practice is just a reminder that, you know, you are not your job, you are not your relationships, you are not your family, you are not your body, because the person you saw like 10 years ago in the mirror was not the same person you see today. So who really are you? And, you know, that is one question that I encourage people to ask themselves every single day, because when these things happen, you know, when life wakes us up through these challenging times, when we lose something, that is when people start to really struggle. And whilst, you know, we are human beings and pain is inevitable, right, as part of the human experience, but, you know, when we don't remind ourselves of this truth of life, this pain can lead to suffering, you know, and it can take us down to the depths of our own, you know, black hole, which I think, you know, which we probably wouldn't be in if we had this daily awareness, you know, this daily spiritual reminder of who we really are.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And I think that's why it's so important to have that daily practice, because, you know, life is always going to happen to us. Like, that's not going to stop. But it's really our ability to bounce back and come back to that centeredness of knowing who we are and allowing life to work for us instead of just happening to us. I think that that's a great perspective. And so tell me, what is one of your greatest successes, and what have you learned from it?
My greatest successes. Well, you know, I guess one of my greatest successes has been my journey as an entrepreneur. I would say and you know, and not because of whatever I've achieved or I haven't achieved. It's not really about, you know, what's going on outside. That's what people see, right? But it's about how it's helped me grow both personally and professionally. You know, we all know that entrepreneurship has its own shares of ups and downs. Everything is happening on a daily basis, you know, and it's not always on the rosy side, right? You're going to have to deal with different things, and it's about, you know, the ability to have managed it. So my whole goal was to bring, you know, this awareness on the power of the self, mind, and consciousness, like to people here in Dubai, and help people focus on a journey of personal evolution as a key to lasting happiness. So in a place like Dubai, where consumerism was at its peak, and there was little or no opportunity for people to take the time out and reflect on who they really are and what they really want and what actually makes them happy. And so I felt one of my greatest successes on the external was to build a safe and nurturing platform where people can learn to live happier and healthier. But again, like I said, it's not so much about the external. That's just one aspect of it. But it's about like my ability to be resilient no matter the ups and downs, and there've been as many downs as there've been ups, to remain passionate about this work, to be consistent and focused, and of course grounded, because no matter how much you achieve in life, if you have no grounding, that's when, like the higher you fly, the more grounded one needs to be. And I think Illuminations really teaches me that every day, because it's built on a lot of hard work, and so I don't take these things for granted, and it's taught me how to balance between the external and the internal. Like when a lot of people look at spirituality, they think that you have to go to the ashram, or you have to give up your desires, or you have to just go within yourself and go to extremes. I don't believe in that. I believe that your own route to your own divinity lies within yourself. All your gurus, teachers, mentors, and platforms are simply just like your awareness to help you on the path to discovering who you truly are. And so I feel like I've not given up. I think I'm extremely ambitious, but I'm consciously ambitious. I'm not going to give up my health or try to run after things which are not meant for me. And, just really focus on making more conscious choices as a leader in business, And I think creating that fine balance between the masculine and the feminine is kind of where I feel that after 12 years that, of being in this work has really taught me. So I think that's my greatest success more than anything else. For me, spirituality is not so much about, completely changing everything in your life, but it's a more subtle awareness that you can do everything you're doing. You can go party in Mykonos, you can, have all the experiences of life, but it's a more subtle awareness that's so intimate and that's so personal within oneself, So people talk about full moon meditation and cacao ceremonies and all of these things, and it's amazing. Like, these are platforms, and they're fun and they're exciting, and it all provides new awareness. But it's just a subtle understanding that everything else is ego. You are just purely consciousness, like in motion, and it's about really tapping into understanding that whilst you are in this world, you are not of it. And if you can do that, you can enjoy your success. And you can actually live life to, it's optimum, because you are here to have the human experiences. You're here to have relationships. You're here to have crazy experiences. You're here to travel the world. You're here to achieve, all the abundance, be it financial and everything. So I always want to promote spirituality to be like that, and not something that you have to just, give up. Yeah, it's more about being inclusive, rather than trying to eliminate things in life. So that's my whole take.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a lot of times it is sort of painted as what you're going to have to give up, what you're going to have to let go of. And when actually we're here also on this amazing planet to have incredible experiences, and they expand you as much, as some of the things that we have to discipline within ourselves to get rid of, or to eliminate, or to hone, to be able to have those really joyful experiences are also expansive experiences for us.
Yeah, and it also feels nice, when you walk into a nightclub and you meet someone that you don't know, and they say, oh, and then you talk about Illuminations, and they're like, oh, Illuminations has changed my life, And of course we could call it the ego, but I mean, that does feel very good for me. I won't lie, and it's nice to be able to contribute to someone's life and feel like I've done something better. So on that level as well, that is my greatest success when I see that happening. It's nice to meet people and hear that once in a while. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that is something that is incredible, because that was your original goal, was to be able to share these practices in a way that related to people, so to have people come back to you and say, you know what, I did tap into that. I totally got on board with your energy with that, and that's amazing alignment. So yeah, definitely. And the entrepreneur's journey, I think, is actually really interesting and can very much run parallel to this spiritual journey and this spiritual evolution of sort of expanding beyond your boundaries and beyond what you believed possible and beyond glass ceilings that you maybe didn't even know you had. And so I mean, one of my most favorite practices that we've shared is A Course in Miracles, and one of yeah, it's amazing. And so one of the things in there that really sort of shifted me was, I'm probably going to butcher this quote actually, but it's basically that our purpose on earth, our function is to forgive the world that I perceive. And so the way that I see that is that I found that so freeing, because that was like my one focus, and whatever comes up is there for me to shape me, whether it be good or bad or uncomfortable or whatever is in my perception in that moment is the resistance that I'm ready to move past and move through and work on.
So, when we tend to as you rightly said, when we tend to label or judge our experiences as positive and negative, there are days I wake up and everything's going well and we just signed a new deal, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm so happy today, and it's world domination. And then the next day something else happens, and it's just like the universe's way of reminding you that, don't get too attached to anything, because the next day can be different, and it's, so people see the glamour of, like running wellness centers and, going to the US and starting something online and doing all of this, but people don't see that there's a lot of ups and downs that come along with that. So what kind of, what has really stood out to me? I think, when I first started the business, I was much younger. I was 23 or 24 years old, or 25 around the time. And so, you're young, you're excited. And so I think when I opened my first center, we did well from day one. In 6 months, we had a return on our investment. People were coming in. We had traffic of people, and everybody was talking about.
And some of your major influences in your life, whether in your personal life or different teachers or known figures in the wellness space?
So the one person who I regard as my mentor is Dr. Yuvraj Kapadia. So when I first got into spirituality, or when I was given that book by Dr. Brian Weiss called Many Lives, Many Masters, it was all about hypnotherapy and regression therapy. And because it sparked my interest, I Googled that when I went to India, and I met Dr. Yuvraj, who's a well-known and renowned hypnotherapist. And he was the first person who introduced me to the power of the subconscious mind. And in my first hypnotherapy session, it was actually that I caught a glimpse of my soul. I entered a deep state of a meditation experience, and he was probably the first person who introduced me to the world of spirituality, in terms of helping me understand that we don't get what we consciously desire, we get what we subconsciously represent. And through hypnotherapy, I was able to explore a lot of my own issues from childhood by working on my inner children, working on energy healing modalities, really understanding where my thoughts, emotions, and beliefs were coming from. And at the end of the day, a lot of the triggers or conflicts that we have in our everyday life are stored in our subconscious space that's coming from the past. And so Dr. Yuvraj really helped me to understand this in a more grounded approach, which was very logical, practical, and very easy to apply. And that's why, he explained to me that we operate on 4 levels of existence, how everything in life starts with a thought, how thoughts generate emotions, how emotions affect your energies, and then eventually your reality. And if we work on all these 4 levels of existence, we can see a complete change in our life. And if you change things that's going on, around you, you can find that change within you. And this was way back in 2006, when the law of attraction, spirituality wasn't as, common as it is today. And so I was so inspired by his teachings that I brought him down to Dubai to conduct his first talk and seminars and workshops and stuff. And it was we all have the hope and aspiration to become the best version of ourselves. And so when I would talk to this about, talk about healing and spirituality to friends and family and people around me, everybody was so interested to learn more. And all his workshops were completely full, and we got such a great response. And I was just doing this as a hobby. I wasn't even looking at it as a career. But he was the first person who encouraged me and said, Soniyaa, you're so good at this, and you're so passionate about this. Why don't you do this as a career? And at the time, my father thought I was crazy, because he's like, I spent so much money on your education in London, and now you're going to go become a quack. And he was really angry with me. But Yuvraj really encouraged me, and one day in the shower, I came up with the word Illuminations, and everything changed from there. And once I was introduced to him, I'd have like people from all over the world call me up and say, oh, I hear you organize holistic healing events. And, I'm just like, yeah, sure, of course. And then I said, if you want to come down, I'll experience what you have to offer. And if I like it, I'll promote it to people I know. So, and that's kind of how it started, very organically. And from there, we decided to have more talks, more workshops. And then I trained to become a therapist. And then I trained to become a teacher after that as well. And for somebody, who could not speak to a person on the phone, I was so shy, and today I'm giving seminars, to hundreds of people. So he has a huge role to play in that for me. So he would be my first mentor. But apart from that, after Yuvraj, I explored the teachings of Kriya Yoga through Paramahansa Yogananda's book, like the autobiography of a yogi, with Eckhart Tolle. And in more recent times, with the Untethered Soul, by Michael A. Singer. So there have been a lot of different mentors in my life, but I would consider Yuvraj to be the first, as well as Osho. I'm a huge fan of Osho. I loved his teachings. I went to his ashram right when I got into all this work, and his awareness and his knowledge really helped me transform and just move out of my box. I was so conservative. I had such rigid ways of living and what I thought was right and wrong. And with Osho, he just broke all those boundaries for me. And I know a lot of people, talk about him, in not a very positive light. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all have dark and light within us. And if we choose to see only the darkness, that's all we're going to see. But I believe that he had so much to offer the world and he was way ahead of his time. But unfortunately, towards the end, his darkness might have got the better of him. And, just as it sometimes happens. But the value that he had to provide to people and his knowledge is what we talk about now, And so I think he was also a huge pioneer in his field at the time. So I've had many teachers, but I don't really believe in one school of thought or one guru or one way of life. I believe as we constantly evolve, I guess we have awareness that kind of comes our way through books, through teachers, through workshops, and and now that I'm in the field of wellness and I have to hire practitioners on a daily basis, I get to experience everyone's perspective. And each individual is so unique in their approach to spirituality, healing, and meditation that I have the privilege to always constantly explore different ways of learning more about myself. So I think that's been a very interesting experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that we have shifted into a new age as well in terms of spirituality. There's been a huge awakening in the last 10 years, I would say. Definitely really rapid awakening. And I think it's really also about self-actualization and self-awareness, and also with that comes self-responsibility and that ability to be able to realize what is coming your way and see what resonates with you and be able to curate those practices for yourself in a way that serves you. And I think that that's really the space that we're moving into. I think the age of the guru, where we look to one person to follow and do everything that they say and follow their road, I think that we've shifted out of that, because I think in a way as well, it's sort of, we can use Osho as a great example of this actually, is that when we look for divinity in another human being, I think that sets us up for disaster, really, because at the end of the day, these people are human, and I'm a practitioner of Kundalini yoga, and obviously Yogi Bhajan has had some scandals in the last couple of years come out about him, and I also grew up in the church, so I've seen this, pastors fall from grace many times, and I think what we tend to do as a society is we then, we're disappointed in the way that these people have behaved and not justifying their behaviors, but we forget that they're human and they're capable of having these failures because we've put them so high up and so anointed them so highly, right? And so I think that's a dangerous position to be in, because they're always going to let us down. And do we then throw out the teachings that were really inspired because we're disappointed in the way they've behaved? How do you sort of separate that in your own personal life?
So basically, I mean, like I was telling you, this whole concept about special relationships, when you put a person on a pedestal and you attach so much value to them, it's also a reflection of your own lack of self-worth, because you're looking at something outside of you to complete you. And when that special relationship does not meet your needs or your expectations, then that person becomes averse to you because they fall in your eyes, and then you start to label or judge them. But the whole intention of seeking for that glory or for that wisdom or for that peace from something outside of you, it never really exists, And so because we live in a human world of duality, people have their light side and their dark side. And the moment we see their darkness, they fall from our sky. And that's when, we need to really look at relationships from a non-neutral perspective, that we all have the light in us and we all have the dark in us. And it's about what you choose to see. You cannot kill darkness with darkness, right? So it's about really accepting people for what they are, and all parts of them. And that acceptance can only come when you learn to accept yourself first, because we also have a dark side within us, and we always want to run away from what doesn't make us feel good and what runs towards what makes us feel good. But it's about really embracing all of it, or as they call the shadow self, and once we embrace both aspects of our being, we can then learn to accept things about other people as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Shadow work is one of my favorite practices, actually. I found so much liberation from that. I think it's fantastic.
There's a book called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers.
I loved Debbie Ford's book. I think that she's kind of the queen of the shadow self. And so, speaking of books and resources, are there any particular resources that you would recommend to our listeners that you found particularly useful on your journey? Any books, any podcasts that you listen to, any YouTube people that you follow?
So The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, and The Surrender Experiment, because I'm currently on a journey of surrendering and flowing rather than controlling. And so Michael Singer has been an absolute profound author and teacher in my life, where he talks about being in the present moment and the voice inside your head, and he talks about how you're not the voice, you're the one that hears it. And in my meditation experience, when I have this constant mental chatter, which is coming from either from past experiences, from what I need to do, from what I'm going to do today, I just remind myself that these are just the ego-based mental chatter, and then all that matters is being in the here and now. And then when I remind myself that you are not the voice, you are the one who hears it, it's the witness of what's going on. And when you can become a witness to your own life, that is when you're not participating in your drama, but witnessing it and operating more neutrally out of a response rather than a reaction to life, right? And it really helps me rather to be a more conscious leader. When my team, they don't behave in the way I want them to, what used to happen earlier is I used to get triggered and then I used to react, and that reaction would create a whole load of other issues, right? But when I take a step back and really learn to respond by, just remaining with myself for a few minutes, that's really, really empowered me, both in my personal and professional life. So in terms of meditation, Michael Singer, with Alan Cohen, because I don't have too much time to, work on the course of Miracles workbook, but he makes it really easy by talking about it and providing the basic tools and concepts. So Alan Cohen has been a recent, author which I've been reading. But at the end of the day, I love reading on Audible or hearing these books on Audible. So when I'm going for a walk or at night, I always listen to these, I guess anything that anyone recommends. In terms of entrepreneurship, I really love the work from Mind Valley. I think Mind Valley has some great entrepreneurs and soulpreneurs, and I think they provide a lot of value. And so in terms of learning how to start your business, Mind Valley has excellent talks and podcasts for that as well. So
fantastic. So coming back into the present, your day must be jam-packed. Your day must be really busy in terms of all of the work that you have to do. But how do you start your day? What does your daily routine look like?
So, well, prior to the lockdown, I would say my life was more about doing, and less about being because of the time. I felt, I was traveling once every 2 weeks. I was on a plane. And when I was in Dubai, because I had such less time over here, I'd be working 12 hours a day. So I had, and I would practice my meditation routine. I would work out on a daily basis because I actually am very passionate about like working out and exercising. But after the lockdown, I've been able to cultivate a beautiful routine by maintaining a fine balance between doing and being. So now I wake up in the morning, I start with a gratitude affirmation by Bob Baker. I think his work is excellent and it's available on YouTube. And I start with a few minutes of gratitude because gratitude actually, is proven to rewire our brain, and it helps me so much, take stock of, what I have in my life rather than what I need to be, because we're so focused on what we need to do that we rarely enjoy what we really have. And, and that's something I've been learning to do a lot more. After that, I personally train on a daily basis with my trainer on Zoom. And after that, I complete my practice through breath work, meditation, and a walk, and a daily walk in the sun. So that's my daily spiritual ritual in terms of what I do for myself and my personal growth. And after that, it's predominantly work and obviously spending time with friends on the weekend. But I do give in a lot of time to work. I probably work more than 8.5 to 9 hours a day. And now, in recent times, I've been learning to, kind of let go more, delegate more, focus on prioritizing on what's important. And I am, like whoever knows me, like with work, I'm a complete micromanager, or rather I used to be a complete micromanager. I used to like to be in control of every aspect of my business, be it presentations, be it marketing, be it accounting, be it like with operations. But what I really learned is that if one needs to grow, they need to look at things from a larger picture, and so after the lockdown, it's really given me time to focus on really what's important, both personally and professionally. And that's changed a lot for me as well. So my work style is different, where I'd spend a lot of time with admin work. I found that I can let that go, and I focus on creating more relationships with my clients, more teaching, more focusing on the long-term growth and expansion of Illuminations, and really what I want to do with the vision for my business. So I'm more focused on that these days, which I'm really, really enjoying. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
Amazing. And what is one practice or tip that you could recommend to our listeners that they could implement now if they're also trying to find this balance between being able to work hard and get in the work that they need to do, but also have this space of being as well?
Well, I think very often we attach so much, of our worth, on things outside of us. So for a mom, it could be with her kids. For a working professional, it could be with their job. For me, it could be, my brand and my business. For another person, it could be something else. So I think the first awareness is realizing that you can't attach so much to things outside of you. And if you tend to do that, what COVID has taught us is that what you attach so much to things outside of you, they can be taken away from you within seconds, right? So a person who held themselves so highly, like regarding their job, no longer may have a job, right? Or people have had to be locked down away from people that they love, or, so many of these things have changed. And I think it's about really the awareness of reminding yourself who you are on a daily basis. And that's what meditation is about. Like, who are you? Like, who would you be without your family, without your relationship, without your job, without your money, without your power, without anything else outside of you? Who really are you if you're stripped away from all these things? And so that's the first most important question to ask yourself and to remind yourself on a daily basis, because life is constantly changing and evolving. And I think that once we have this daily reminder and daily awareness, we will lead our lives in a very different way than what we used to. We don't attach so much. We don't get so afraid of losing things. We don't try and control so much, but really flow with what's highest and best and what's right for us in that time. So it's very easy to say, but it's very difficult to practice when you don't remind yourself of who you are. So that's number one, as an awareness. Number two, I would say grounding yourself, right? So a lot of grounding exercises that people can do is by closing their eyes and focusing on their breath and tuning into everything that they can hear, or whatever they can smell around them, or whatever they can feel in their body, or whatever they can touch, because I think we're so focused on the past and the future that our mind is very rarely operating in the present moment, and if we take that time to scatter, to just really clear our mind and removing away the scatter by being in the here and the now, I think that will teach us to live in the moment more often. And I mean, you don't really have to spend a whole lot of time doing this. It can even be for a few minutes in the day. And of course, prayer and gratitude. Gratitude is the best prayer, of course, as they say, be thankful, because our mind is always focused on what we don't want. So if a person was rude to us, or if we're stressed at work, we're constantly replaying that scene in our mind. So it's about really focusing on what you already have that's going so well for you, because much always wants more, right? When I had 1 Illuminations, I said, when I have 2 Illuminations, I'll be, so happy and successful. When I have 2, I said, no, I want 3 and I'll be more successful. And there's a never end to your desires, your ambitions, and things outside of you. It will never end. So it's just about really enjoying where you are right now, and focusing on what's priority, and really just being aware of your thoughts on a daily basis, because we have 100,000 thoughts. Most of them are limiting and repetitive. So it's really about listening to that voice inside yourself. And of course, then you have mantras, breath work, chanting. We all resonate with practices that might call to us. And it's about taking whatever you do, whether it's reading a book or whether it's hearing a podcast, and just trying to apply and creating your own ritual that works for you on a daily basis, even for a few minutes, which is a reflection of really contemplating about who you are, why you're here, and what the purpose of your life is. And I think that awareness and reminder is really important on an everyday basis. That's pretty much a broader perspective that I can, give to people, which is something that I do on a daily basis, like just checking in with yourself.
Yeah, amazing. So we had a couple of questions for you from some of our listeners when we put out a question on Instagram. And so the first one is, how do you balance the reality of managing a business while staying grounded spiritually? I think you just answered that really beautifully. So.
A daily spiritual ritual, because without that, we're creatures of habit, right? And if we don't remind ourselves of who we are and why we're here, it's about forgiveness, it's about love. And these are all great terms to hear and read. But you'll never be able to apply them if you don't have a daily spiritual ritual. People come to Illuminations, they spend so much money on workshops and therapy sessions, and they expect that, a therapist is going to change their life. Yes, they might have a breakthrough with a therapist, but if they actually want a lifestyle change, this is something that they're going to need to do themselves. And I'm always clear about that. We are simply here to sow the seed of awareness, but you need to grow your own flower, So.
Absolutely. And another person has asked, are cacao ceremonies healing? Do you know much about cacao ceremonies?
Yeah, so cacao ceremonies come from South America, and basically the properties in a cacao are known to have effects on the mind, body, and energy, So the ancient shamans would use this as a practice to gain more awareness and wisdom. In recent times, we actually held a cacao ceremony in Dubai last November. We had a huge event with 100, 200 people. And it was an amazing experience where through dance, through chanting, through movement, and through drinking the cacao, people were actually able to have a breakthrough in terms of, letting go of their limitations and their fears and connecting to each other. So it was a very interesting experience. But I mean, that's the limited knowledge that I have about it. So do we do this at Illuminations? Yeah, we do this once in a while, and we have exciting events which is a unique way to reach out to people to help them look within themselves, So.
Yeah. And a question on hydrotherapy. Can it help change negative thought patterns, and how is this different to theta therapy?
Right. So we operate on four levels of existence, as I explained earlier. Our thoughts, our emotions, our energy, and our body, right? So we can heal at all levels. So the idea is to reprogram your thoughts by changing your beliefs and healing your experiences. So when we focus on things like acupuncture, hydrotherapy, naturopathy, which deal directly with the body, we're using that root as an entry point to changing your thought processes, which change your beliefs, which heal your experiences, right?
Yeah.
And things like hydrotherapy and all these other types of therapy are more of a cleansing And detox. And, with the placebo effect, we all understand that when you clean the body, or when you work out, it automatically has a direct linkage with the way you feel in your mind, because the mind and body is so interconnected, right? Doctors estimate that 90% of the illness that we experience comes from our stress or the way we think. So a psychological thought has an impact on the body, right? And then so of course the mind-body connection, and if you work on the body, be it yoga, be it meditation, be it acupuncture, that directly influences your energy, your emotions, and your thought process. So
yeah, okay, interesting. And how does your inner work translate to your business expansion?
How does my inner work translate to my business expansion? Well, number one, when I'm more in tune and more conscious within myself, it helps me to make choices, from a space of love, love for my clients, love for myself and my time, and my own well-being, because, with entrepreneurs, they tend to, or like I tend to as well, or I did rather, in my early years, you let go of your own health and well-being in order to achieve goals in your business. And I believe success cannot be so, one directional. It's got to be a holistic success, which means we need to be successful in all areas of our life, in our health and well-being, in our relationships with our family and our loved ones, in our relationships with our employees, right? So it's about really trying to create that fine balance. And I think when I'm more conscious or in tune with myself, and I'm not operating from a space of survival, and more about a space of, really with the intention to thrive, both for myself and for the people around me, I make choices which are more conscious, and that leads me to an intention where I can help more people rather than just, trying to create something just to grow my business for the sake of growth,
Yeah, interesting. And when you first started out in your business, did you ever deal with imposter syndrome within yourself, and how did you overcome this? Was there ever a time that you kind of felt like, who am I to be doing this? I don't have the experience to be doing this, and how did you overcome that?
So, not really, because at the end of the day, I never proclaim to have all the answers or pretend to be spiritual. I know today it's become a trend and everyone says, oh, I'm so spiritual, or oh, I do meditation. And I'm just like, oh, well, so I've never pretended to be like that. I've just had a great interest in spirituality, like a person would have in dance or in art or in music. For me, spiritual knowledge was so interesting and so inspiring. And whenever I could, to the best of my knowledge, I've tried to practice this in my everyday life. My intention of Illuminations is to create a platform to sow the seed of awareness. I never tried to sell spirituality to people. I never pretended to be this leader. And even today in my classes, I tell my students, I'm on this journey with you. I tell them a lot about my own stories, about how I was angry with my employees yesterday, and here's how I overcame this. So I've never looked to other gurus to gain answers from them, and neither have I ever made myself a guru. So for me, I'm just a person. I'm a student of life, and I'm learning all along the way, and I make mistakes, and I get angry, I get annoyed with people a lot of the times, but I'm able to pick myself out of it, and I'm able to be more conscious and more aware, and I think that's the most important thing, and that's the intention, right? So no, I've never actually had that imposter syndrome.
I think this is actually kind of an interesting question, I guess, because it kind of comes back to our idea that we were talking about earlier in regards to special relationships, how Alan Cohen talks about special relationships, in that we can so often make ourselves special or then make other people special, and it's that divide. So I think it's coming back to that humility, that place of humility where we recognize our oneness and our humanness in everyone, and that kind of dissolves that imposter syndrome, because you realize we all have something to share and we all have things to learn. So I think that's an interesting question too. And so what is next for you? What projects are you working on? What's next for Illuminations?
So what's next is just yesterday we created a 5-year plan. But as my dad would say, man proposes, God disposes. So, you can create all the plans in the world, but COVID has taught us that, we shouldn't get too attached to our plans. And sometimes the plan changes. Like about a month ago, when you're in the wellness field, things happen very organically. I've tried to plan for things or things to happen at a certain time, and my consultant will give me a business plan and he will say, this is what you need to target. And I've never really worked that way, right? Things have happened extremely organically. I wanted to start in the US about 2.5 years ago in Los Angeles, right? And so when I went there, I looked at spaces and everything like that. And I came back, and the partners who wanted to work with me at the time, they decided that they didn't want to do that. And so I just kind of left it. And a few months later, a lady walked in and said, I represent a family office, and they'd be interested like to take Illuminations to the US. I'm like, okay, that's really interesting, and I did nothing for it, right? And then suddenly, like a few months passed, and I met my potential partners, and we went back and forth for like 1.5 years, and then suddenly, like in the last couple of weeks, it finally worked out. But did I go out there and look for those people? No, I set an intention that this is what I wanted. And if it's for the highest and best, it should happen, as long as my intention was clear. And it kind of, and just like that, we've had so many opportunities just in the last week. We're looking at taking over a plant-based cafe here in Dubai, something I haven't done before. We're looking at focusing on more like online experiences in the online space as well. So it's just one of those things that we're looking at from a more broader perspective. But again, like these are our plans that we're creating, and let's see kind of what happens. But right now I'm really enjoying the creating part of it for once, rather than focusing on what tomorrow has in store. But but we are working on quite a few projects that will soon hopefully be announced.
No, and I thought it was so cool when I saw that announcement on Instagram as well. I was just like, wow, that's so amazing that in a time when people are shutting down, scaling back, that you're out there jumping into new projects, expanding. So I think that's really incredible. Congratulations for that.
Yeah, so as they say, when everybody is greedy, you should be fearful, and when everybody is fearful, you should be greedy. So at the end of the day, like, I don't believe in the scarcity mindset. I believe that there's opportunity, especially because I believe in what I do wholeheartedly. I believe that people need to learn more about themselves. People are looking at mental health as the next big pandemic that's, coming up, with anxiety and depression and things like that. And I've spent 14 years of my life doing just this, and 14 years ago I had to convince people about spirituality, healing, and meditation. I had to talk to everybody about it and actually try to market it to them and sell it to them. Today I don't have to do that anymore, so let me bear the results, so let me enjoy that whole aspect of now going out there and really just enjoying the work that I've spent so hard or so many years rather, focusing on. So it's, it's been a long journey for me. It hasn't been just, yesterday I'm announcing spaces in the US and here and there. I've been working on these projects for a very long time. And I've been working on this idea for a very long time. And I think that only now I'm seeing, like the universe is being a little kinder to me. Because I'm one of those people who've always had to work really hard to get what I wanted. And for the first time, things are kind of flowing in its way that it's supposed to. So I'm just enjoying that right now, without trying to control it or trying to get too attached to it, because, that's when things come to. Yeah.
Totally. And there's that moment as well, like when you're speaking, I was like, okay, there was that moment of surrender. It was like, it didn't work out with those first partners. Instead of going, no, I'm opening in the US and I'm finding new partners and I'm doing that, you kind of just let it go and surrendered that. And then it came through to you.
Yeah, because earlier in my career, I used to believe in manifestation and creation and and people ask me, but why don't you do like a manifestation exercise? I don't believe in manifestation. You are manifesting at every given point in time. When you wake up in the morning, you're manifesting. It's about, are you consciously manifesting is the question, right? So, most of the time we manifest things that we don't want, because we're always thinking about what we don't want. We're always thinking about what could go wrong. We're always thinking about being anxious and fearful. So at the end of the day, it's about surrendering to what shows up by just ensuring that I've done my bit, I've done whatever I could. I put my 200% out there, and now I see what the universe has to show for it. So it's a kind of fine dance between you and the universe, where you are being, you're doing, and then you have to be, and then you have to do, and then you have to be, kind of thing. So I'm learning that art, and I think as we progress in life, we need to also learn that there is a balance to the external and the internal, because not everything is in our control, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think we can make some predictions as well. You heard it here first that there is this general consensus that the next health crisis is mental health crisis, and I think that we can all definitely see that coming. I also think that the next we tend to focus on one system of the body, and we've had, cardiovascular system has been a focus for many years. We've had now the gut health and digestive system has had its moment. And I think now the next system that is going to be a focus in the wellness world is really going to be our nervous system as well. And so, yeah. You heard it here first on the Hadassah podcast, everybody, that's going to be the new trends in wellness. But so where can our listeners find you and find out more information about Illuminations?
So they can log on to illuminations.ae, which is our website. They can follow me on Soniyaa Kiran, which is my personal Instagram, which I don't post too often, or I should be posting, but I'm a little lazy on the social media front. So we have a lot of workshops, complimentary webinars that happen on a regular basis. We have an online appointment platform and an online store, so people can look at that for now. And we're in the future going to be rebranding very soon into a full online platform where we can, reach out to people with a more clear user experience hopefully before the end of the year. So that's what we're currently working on now.
Excellent. So thank you so much for joining me, Soniyaa. Before we finish,
thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. And before we finish, is there anything that you have in your heart that you'd really like to share that I haven't asked you about?
I think I'm good for now. It's just
covered a lot, I think.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot. It was great having you. I loved having this conversation, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
You too.
See you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode and you got some things to take away from our amazing guests' insight. If you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe and also leave us a review. And for more information on the Hadassah Collective, you can visit our Instagram page at Hadassah Collective. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode at the same time next week. And until then, have a wonderful week.